What's going on, Everly Sports? Back with another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Friday's deadline additions for the Toronto Maple Leafs. As of course, the Leafs signed two big name guys at the trade deadline, of course, from the Philadelphia Flyers. Forward center Scott Laughton. I really like Scott Laughton, and I really like the deal we made for him. I think it's a pretty affordable price tag, and of course, getting the money. Getting the money retained is a huge thing. Of course, Oakville native, GTA native, Scott Laughton is very excited to be here in Toronto. But as for what the Leafs gave up, well, the Flyers retained 50% of the deal, making him worth $1.5 million this year and $1.5 million next year. He's, of course, signed into next year. And the Leafs also got 4th and 6th round picks in years 2025 and 2027. So they get 2 picks, Scott Laughton retained. And what they trade is Nikita Grabankin, of course, forward prospect who a lot of people like. He played really well for the Leafs. When he was called up in the few minutes he did play, had good energy, and a lot of fans fell in love with him in interviews. So tough to see him go, but of course, to get something, you've got to give something. And they also gave up a first-round pick in 2027, which is conditional to top 10 protected pick. So more than likely the Leafs won't be picking in the top 10. So that trade should be that's that. I mean, I really like the addition of Scott Laughton. Who's a guy who plays the third line center role. He does it really well. He's played in his career before with Craig Berube early in his years in the NHL. Of course, Berube was the assistant coach in Philadelphia. And for Laughton, even beyond the 2 years, this is probably a guy who's going to stick around here. He's from here. Growing up, it was his dream to play for the Maple Leafs. And, of course, now the Leafs make that dream come true. But he can play on the penalty kill as well. He's a really good, solid player. He was in Philly for 12 seasons, and he's really racked up a good resume at 30 years old. Veteran that in the playoffs is going to be a really nice help. And then, of course, the big trade of the day that no one saw coming. It was after 3 o'clock that it got announced. Everyone is excited about this one. That is, of course, the Leafs acquiring Brandon Carlo from the Boston Bruins. Of course, the Bruins traded Brad Marchand to the Florida Panthers. And of course, no one really saw that coming either. But the Bruins traded Coyle, they traded Carlo, they traded Marchand. And at the end of the day, they are selling, and they sold their team. So when Marchand got traded, everyone was kind of wondering what's going to happen with the rest of their team. Will they possibly trade a guy like Carlo? I never would have thought Boston would trade a guy of Carlo's significance to the Leafs. Now, as for what the Leafs gave up to get Brandon Carlo, well, it wasn't cheap. They, of course, traded their 2026 first-round pick for Carlo, who's a 6'5", 225-pound defenseman who's been a Leaf killer in the playoffs. And it's great to have a guy like that, a right-hand shot defenseman on your side. But what they traded was a hefty price. Of course, 2026 first-round pick, which is top 5 protected. So, again, that pick will likely go to Boston. Leafs will not be picking in the top 5 next draft. A 4th-round pick in this upcoming draft. Of course, they got one from Philly in the Laughton trade, so that offsets that, and Fraser Minton, a guy who really I don't think the Leafs wanted to part with. But like I said, if you want to get something, you've got to give something up. And obviously Minton's a very young, bright center, but he has obviously a lot of appeal to Boston, and who wouldn't? It's a young center prospect who shows a lot of promise. So, obviously the Leafs gave up a good amount, but not only did they get Carlo, they got him at 15% retained for this year and 2 more. So they're going to have Brandon Carlo at $3.4 or so million. He's really worth $5.5, $6 million. At least when you look at what these defensemen these days are getting paid. So I love the deal for Carlo. And this feels like that Jake McCabe trade where, you get him for super cheap. He's got 2 more years on it, and then after those 2 years, when he's really cheap because you got it retained, you extend him. And I think that's something that the Leafs will ultimately look to do with Carlo, and I don't see why Carlo wouldn't want to stay here with the Leafs. He sounds really excited. He seems really excited. He's saying how excited he is to get to work with this group, of course. He's had a lot of playoff success with the Bruins, but he's never won a cup. So, again, a guy who's played a lot of games, almost 80 career playoff games, is going to bring that veteran experience and presence here to the Leafs and try and win his first career Stanley Cup. So that's an exciting trade. And then, of course, the Leafs just had to do a money dump off with the Pittsburgh Penguins. They traded Connor Timmins, Connor Dewar, and they got a 5th-round pick. So, Toronto just dumping the money off there to make these 2 deals work. But I love what the Leafs were able to do on deadline day. I love the trades. I love who they got, and I love that these aren't guys that are on expiring deals. I love that they're guys with term and guys that are going to be here for not just one playoff run but multiple. So really, really looking forward to the rest of the season. We got to try and finish first. That's a very big thing right now. That's got to be the priority and the ultimate goal. And then, of course, a deep playoff run. I'm really looking forward to it. But you guys let me know down in the comment section what your thoughts are on these 2 trades the Leafs made on deadline day, of course, on Friday. I love them. I love, what we were able to get. And, of course, you have to, what we were able to trade was a decent amount, but we got 2 really good guys. You guys let me know the good stuff down in the comment section. As always, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. We'll see you guys on the next video. And as always, go Leafs, go.